Okay guys, so in this video, we're going to talk about the attribution theory. But before I dive into this theory, I'm gonna ask you guys to do a journal entry. So in next slide, you are gonna read two scenarios. And in both of these two scenarios, you are engaging in a questionable behavior. So you are facing a possible blame, you are being judged by other people possibly, and you may face some punishment. So your task is pick one scenario which you feel you are good at, and then come up with a story which can help you get away from blame and punishments. So here, please do not apologize. You got to come up with an excuse or justification to help you get away from this punishment or the blame. And we're gonna use your story when I explain this theory. So these are the two scenarios. Scenario 1, you are pulled over by a police officer for driving 80 miles per hour on 55 per hour zone. The officer asked for your driver license, but you do not have it because it was taken away after your third speeding ticket. So what account can you come up to make you get away from a ticket? Again, do not apologize. Try to come up with an excuse or justification to help you get away from it. Second scenario. Second scenario, your fiancé or your fiancée, who has been saving every possible penny for your wedding costs, happens to find your credit card statement, discovering that you have purchased a number of luxury shoes or expensive video games, or pick one depending on your interest, that are not strictly necessary and confronts you for spending money foolishly. So what story can you come up with in response? So these are two scenarios. Just pick one and write a story as your journal entry, and then we're gonna use your journal entry when I explain this attribution theory. So please pause here and come back to our lecture when you finish this journal entry. Okay, welcome back. Let's talk about this attribution theory. So this theory adopts a very different perspective. So previously, we've just discussed this self-defense when we put ourselves in the spot when our behaviors are being questioned by other people. So how do we come up with an account to defend ourselves? And this attribution theory will take the perspective from the other end of the communication. So when one's behavior is being questioned, is being judged by other people, how these other people would perceive this person's wrong behavior. And this is the basic idea of this attribution theory. So in other words, this theory looks at how other people would evaluate the questioned behavior and make assessment about the cause of the questionable behavior. So when people cannot make assessment about the cause of an action or behavior of other people, we say it is people are making attributions. They are trying to think about the cause of an action. What factors lead to this action or behavior? So when people make such assessment or when people make such attribution, people would evaluate the cause of the action along three dimensions. So these three dimensions are whether this cause is controllable or not, whether it is a stable factor or not, whether it is intentional or not. And let's look at these three factors one by one. I'll use the good and bad reasons for missing school to illustrate these three dimensions. So I'm pretty sure that at some point of our life, we all kind of missed our school intentionally or unintentionally. Let's talk about all these excuses or these reasons. First, let's talk about controllable, whether the reason for missing school is controllable or not. So a controllable reason for missing school is something like, I went to a party last night and I drank too much. So I slept in this morning and I just totally missed the school. So this is something, this behavior is within your control. You could have 100% control over behavior, but you just chose not to control it. Okay, so I would say this reason is something which is supposed to be within your control. Okay, in contrast to that, an uncontrollable reason for missing school is my grandma died. Hopefully, it is something it is not controlled by you, but I would say for normal situations, one of your families died, and this is something uncontrollable. So this is an uncontrollable reason for missing school. You totally have no ability to change that. But for this one, you could choose not to go to the party or not to drink too much. But it turned out that you went to the party, you drank too much, and that is a controllable reason for missing school. Let's talk about second dimension, stability. Whether this factor, whether this reason is a stable factor or not. So a stable reason or a stable factor for missing school is I'm a lazy person. I know it is ridiculous, it is not a legitimate reason for missing school, but if you use this reason for missing school, it is a stable factor because it is a personality. You have been this way for like 20 years and you will be lazy in probably next 10 years. So it is kind of a relatively stable factor, your personality. I'm a lazy person. In contrast, an unstable factor would be something like the storm blocks my way out. So it is something about the weather. It is something unstable. You cannot make predictions about tomorrow's weather. So because of this unstable factor, you missed the school. So we would say it is something not quite stable. The last dimension, intentionality, whether this factor, whether you miss school intentionally or not. So an intentional reason for missing school is I just don't like school. I don't want to go to school. You did it intentionally, on purpose. Whereas an unintentional reason or factor for missing school causing the absence is, oh, I forgot we have class today. So you didn't do it on purpose. It just happened that way. So these are the three dimensions when we make assessment about people's behaviors, when we evaluate or make attributions about other people's behaviors. So next, I'm gonna ask you guys to go back to the story you just put on your paper or in your computer for the journal entry. I would like you guys to evaluate the story, your own story, to help you get away from the ticket or from your fiance or fiancee's punishment. So evaluate your story and analyze whether your story is a controllable factor or not, whether it is a stable factor or not, whether it is intentional factor or not. Okay, so just put the three terms under your story, whether it is controllable or not, stable or not, and intentional or not. So after we do it, let's talk about what is a good excuse, what is a good justification to help you get away from punishment. So an effective account which can help you get away from punishment is something unintentional, something unstable, totally out of your control and you didn't do it on purpose, and uncontrollable. Whereas an ineffective account is something intentional, stable, and controllable. Okay, so this is the attribution theory, and we are evaluating people's wrong behaviors along these three dimensions. Okay, so in next class, we're going to talk about the family communication and romantic relationships.